Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
6:07 on this Wednesday morning. Thanks for tuning in to O'Connor and Company. We're glad to have you this 18th day of February. We've got a busy slate ahead of us, starting in 30 minutes with Cal Thomas, syndicated columnist. Then at 7:05, Gabriella Hoffman, also syndicated columnist there over at Town Hall and with Independent Women's Center for Energy and Conservation. Talk to her about the POOP-TOMAC. 8:05, your drug czar, Sarah Carter, will join us. It's Larry O'Connor with Bethany Mandel. Bethany, good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning.
You made it past the 5 o'clock hour, so we're going to be fine now, right?
I think I'm going to be safe now.
Smooth sailing. All right, the other day, a Monday to be exact, Bethany Mandel was on this program. We were talking about, obviously, the sewage dump into the Potomac and the lack of any leadership from our local officials. And Bethany offered this advice.
Obviously, we are led by people who are incapable of leadership here in the D.C., Maryland area. Is it possible for President Trump to declare a national emergency and get FEMA and get the National Guard in to fix this sewage disaster so that it doesn't go on for 9 more months?
Bethany, what happened hours after you said that on this program?
And we got the answer. It is, in fact, possible because that is what they're going to do, finally. Yeah. It is a ecological national crisis, and it was recognized as such by someone with the authority to do something about it.
Yeah. And Lee Zeldin, director of the EPA, actually put out a statement yesterday saying the Potomac Interceptor overflow is a sewage crisis of a historic proportion. Yep. Never should any American family, community, or waterway ever have to experience this level of extensive environmental damage. Well, we explained yesterday that Governor Wes Moore finally said something publicly about this. He was compelled to do so. But it was really a political statement in response to Donald Trump, pointing fingers back at Trump, saying that it was his fault, which it's not. It's not the federal government's responsibility to maintain or repair this sewage line, but they're getting into it now. Lee Zeldin continued, D.C. Water has been leading all cleanup and remediation efforts responsible for containment, monitoring, and recovery operations. And Maryland has been providing regulatory oversight related to water quality standard exceedances in the Potomac related to unauthorized discharges of wastewater. By the way, they got that first report of E. coli poisoning in the water wrong. God. They got it wrong by a factor of 100, by the way. At no point in the lead up to today had D.C. Water or the state of Maryland requested EPA to take over the responsibilities, and EPA has continued to offer its full support to state and local leaders from the onset. We're always ready to lead and assist with our exceptional agency and team. In other words, at no point did they ever say, hey, feds, you want to get involved in this? Do you need to? They were like, no, we got this. We got this. Also, Wes Moore yesterday tried to, again, politically make hay with the president by saying, you know, this whole sewage issue in the Potomac, appreciate your assistance, but it's pretty much contained. Let me pause there for a moment. Pretty much contained. They've diverted all of the sewage into the C&O Canal. That's not contained. It's diverted, and the cleanup hasn't even begun, and the repairs aren't done. It's going to take weeks, if not months, to get that done. But set that aside for a moment. He said, how about freeing up some of the FEMA money instead of the Potomac? You can help people in Western Maryland who are still suffering from the last storm. And, of course, the responses he got were pretty funny because the administration would love to free up some FEMA money over there and in Tennessee and some other areas. But it's Democrats who have shut down the Department of Homeland Security right now and turned off the funding in the Senate. It's just, Wes Moore is just really, really bad at this.
Yep, leading from behind. That is what Democrats are best at. Pretty much under control. Can you imagine, let's really get in a time machine and go back to after Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. Can you imagine if George W. Bush, who hates black people, can you imagine if he had said, it's pretty much under control. We pretty much got it sorted after the levees broke. No, he got George Bush hates black people.
Yes,
that's what he got in response.
Kanye. Yeah, exactly. And that was the myth.
I forgot it was Kanye.
That was the mythology that was created. NBC News broke the silence here from the networks. They had not been saying this. Cable news hadn't done much on this story either, of course, which is bizarre because they're obsessed with Washington, D.C., but this story makes Democrats look bad, and that's why they haven't discussed it. Here's NBC Nightly News last night. Take a listen.
Tom Costello is on the scene. The river George Washington called the nation's river is tonight off limits and contaminated after a 60-year-old sewage line in Maryland broke open last month, spewing more than 240 million gallons of raw waste into the river. The same river that flows past the Kennedy Center and the Lincoln Memorial and used by boaters, kayakers, high school and college rowing teams.
So you can see some of the toilet paper and the sewage up on the banks there.
Riverkeeper Dean Nalyokes says the stench and environmental damage are staggering, with E. coli levels more than 10,000 times above EPA quality standards at the time of the spill. While slowly coming down, health experts warn no one should be boating, fishing, or even touching the Potomac. Is drinking water at all affected here?
No, from day one, drinking water has never been impacted by this.
But massive boulders that collapsed into the 6-foot-wide pipe are delaying the repairs. Meanwhile, President Trump has blamed Maryland's Democratic Governor Wes Moore for gross mismanagement, while Moore fired back, saying the pipe was federally built and regulated, and the Trump EPA has been slow to respond. The fear now, the Potomac may not be safe for months. You used to swim right here?
I've swam right here.
Would you swim in here again?
Not for a while.
D.C. Water expects to have the immediate repair job done by mid-March, but overhauling the entire line could take at least 9 months. Tom
Costello for us. Tom, thank you.
What was impressive about that report is, even though they said Trump said this, Wes Moore said that, they didn't actually put their thumb on the scale and actually say, well, of course, Trump is to blame here. I have to say, I have to hand it to NBC Nightly News. That was somewhat even-handed.
With the question that we still have not had any answers to, and I guess it's because they still, haven't stopped the flow of sewage into the water, is how long is this going to take? How long until this water is safe? Again, if we had a media who cared, we would have more segments about like the impact on tourism, the impact on these local small businesses who go boating in the Potomac.
Or the blue crabs this season.
That's
how
right.
this is going to affect the blue crabs, the restaurants, the industry that surrounds the Maryland crab, or I know Virginians like to think that they're Virginian crabs. Either way, there's blue crabs in that bay that we love and we rely on. What about the oysters and dealing with all the oysters? And how will it affect not just the Potomac and the bay at large, but what about all the other tributaries? What about the Rappahannock? What about other rivers that rely on the Chesapeake Bay and how far it goes? Yeah, that would all be really useful information. Well, yesterday there was a press event where representatives from D.C. government, including a D.C. water official, they were trying to, can I use this? I guess it's appropriate in this case, polish the turd here with regard to the
I guess
mess
we're not out of the 5 a.m. hour yet.
in the Potomac. And, this one gentleman made a remarkable pronouncement about what he was willing to do to prove that the Potomac was perfectly safe. We'll share that with you coming up in a moment, and more on how long this cleanup might take. First, though, it's 6:15. Some estimations are that it would take months until the cleanup is complete, and that E. coli and other factors, pollutants, are brought down to safe levels. I've heard some people say it might never get back. Let's face it, the Potomac wasn't the healthiest river to begin with. Corey Ganamort, former employee producer here for the Vince Culinay show on WMAL. Now he works for Town Hall. He famously has a pontoon boat that he would have parties on the weekends. And I'll never forget, swimming in the Potomac with Corey Meredith, mortified by it. It's fine. It's a muddy river. And then Corey there's like a little sandbar over north of Georgetown, up the river there, that we would anchor at and just hang out. And I remember I was chilling there with Mary Margaret Olahan, who's now with the Daily Wire White House correspondent. And we're, talking about the business and everything. And Corey reaches down into the muddy banks, pulls out an oyster, rips open the oyster, and eats it raw right there in front of all of us. And I'm like, dude, it's one thing to be swimming in this water, and I'm chilling with you, but there ain't no way I'm eating an oyster from the Potomac like that. And trust me, I don't know, nobody's going to be doing that anytime soon, because, let's face it.
Yeah.
We know what you're eating.
this is another question that we've talked about on the show somewhat recently is also what this is going to do to Virginia, to the beaches. Is it going that far south? It's going to destroy the summer and the spring. And also the cherry blossoms.
Right. Be well, it's going to be very stinky at the tidal basin, that's for sure. That said, keep in mind that whole idea of reaching down, pulling up an oyster, and eating it right there from the Potomac. The director of what is this guy's title? His official title? Director of D.C. Department of Environment was at a meeting yesterday for the press where they were talking through all the issues. And he said, we don't have audio of this, do we? Was this not caught on video? It wasn't, but it was widely reported by the reporters who were in the room. He said that he would eat fish caught in the Potomac River right now. He said, you catch me a fish, you give it to me, I'll cook it up, I'll eat that right now. It's perfectly safe. I don't think that's a good idea. Kids, don't try this at home, please.
No.
Not a good plan. Gabriella Hoffman, who covers environmental issues for Town Hall and Independent Women's Forum, she's going to be joining us, by the way, coming up at 7:05. She actually opined on this. She said, I live very close to the Potomac. The sewage crisis that's brewing will invite an environmental and biodiversity disaster.
Yep.
And you're getting virtual silence from so-called environmentalists who run D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. See, that's the real issue here. Is that the environmental movement in this country has been so misdirected, and all of the money and all of the science and all of the research and all of the activism has gone to one issue and one issue only, and that's climate emissions that might affect greenhouse gases and climate change. And they have lost sight of basic environmental standards that everyone used to agree on, like raw sewage in our water. And it's like there's nobody has an expertise in that anymore.
I have a column coming out at Fox News in approximately 40 minutes on all of that, Larry.
Okay.
I'm that fast of a writer that I took everything that you just said and I wrote it down and I pitched it to Fox, and it will be on the website in 40 minutes.
I can't wait to see it. And I can't wait for you to give me credit in the column for everything that I just said. Not so much. It's okay. By the way, we do have the name of that D.C. official is Richard Jackson. He is the director of the Department of Energy and Environment. And I don't know what Mr. Jackson eats on a regular basis. I know it's Lent. We're all going to be eating a lot of fish on Fridays, but dude, not fish from the Potomac, please. I care about you. I do. It's also, by the way, back to a serious note, it's going to affect, I think it could eventually affect drinking water too, depending on how far it floats up or floats down into Virginia. Alexandria has already been put on notice that they should not touch the water that's washing up on the shores of Northern Virginia, obviously. Crazy. If you go to Mark Warner's social media profile right now, I haven't checked Tim Kaine recently. Mark Warner, 9 out of 10 posts that he puts up on his social media have to do with the state of Minnesota and his concern about enforcing immigration laws in Minnesota.
Remind me, he's the senator from where?
That would be Virginia. That would be on the other side of the Potomac, just equally affected as Maryland and D.C. is. But that is the key here, is that all of these local officials, they're all trying to protect each other. They either don't care, they either have nobody in their office who works on issues like this because all the environmental positions have been taken up by climate change zealots. Or this is the circling of the wagons. It's like, who's in charge of D.C.? All Democrats. Who's in charge of Maryland? All Democrats. Who's in charge of Virginia? All Democrats. Oh, okay. Since there's no one to blame and no one's going to believe us when we blame Trump, let's just ignore this and pretend it's not happening. Because governance has nothing to do with actually doing what's right for the people you represent. Governance has to do with your party being able to defeat the other guys.
What a town this is, Larry O'Connor.
Indeed. It's 6:23.
Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
Good Wednesday morning to you. It's 6:37. It's O'Connor and Company, where we're getting it done here for you on this February day, the 18th day of February. We're already past the halfway point in this month. Coming up at 7:05, Gabriella Hoffman will join us, talk about her perspective as a conservationist, having to do with the sewage disaster in the Potomac. Then at 8:05, your drug czar, Sarah Carter, will give us an update. It's Larry O'Connor alongside Bethany Mandel. Morning, Bethany.
It's so lovely to be here this morning, even if there's raw sewage flowing through the Potomac.
Yeah, the POOP-TOMAC. Cal Thomas lived in D.C. for decades and decades, and I wonder, Cal, would you eat a fish in the Potomac now or ever?
Well, I'm up here right now visiting because I missed the snow down in Florida. I did read this editorial in the Washington Post this morning, and I want you to take notes on this because this is one of the all-time great statements. And coming from the Washington Post, I couldn't believe it. Here it is. Speaking of the disaster in the Potomac River, the disaster is a reminder that transferring more money to government doesn't necessarily result in better services. Bingo!
What?
Yes.
Wow. I'm shocked. Absolutely
Mandel ought to
shocked.
take a look at that. Yeah, how about that? Yeah, more money doesn't mean better government. Well, who knew?
Hey,
I remember the days before all of this. There were tires floating in the Potomac River, dead fish, there was a couch. The thing smelled terribly. There were warning signs. Don't go in the river. It was a health hazard. Now we're back to that. It's disgraceful.
Yeah, but that was out of negligence. This is out of I guess I don't know what's apathy. The word. I can think like apathy, negligence. This is absolute incompetence. It appears this is incompetence. Hey, Cal. Yesterday we noted the passing of Jesse Jackson. He was a huge political figure here in America in the 80s and in the 90s, into the 2000s as well. I'm sure that you encountered the good Reverend on your on the beat.
Yes, I did, and. He was the last of the great civil rights orators, and there don't seem to be any around anymore. They just play Democrat politics or whatever. But Jesse caused us to rise above that and to consider things that were more important. I accompanied once to a middle school in D.C., an all-black school, and these kids are 14, 13, 15 years old, and he delivered an incredible message. He said, listen, you girls, don't get pregnant. You're going to ruin your lives. And you boys, respect these girls and wait till marriage until you have sex. And after he got off the stage, I said, Jesse, this is your message. This is the one you should be preaching everywhere, and not politics. Politics isn't going to change these kids' lives. This is terrific. But, he went the other way, of course, because that's where all the attention was. And it was said the most dangerous place to be in America was between Jesse and a television camera.
Well, he also, real fast, just to spin off that, in 1993, he famously called crime, specifically black crime in inner cities, the civil rights issue of our time. But boy, that's long forgotten now. You're not allowed to raise crime as a race issue.
Yeah, that's right. Well, he also said that if he were walking down the street in D.C. at night and he saw a black teenager dressed in a certain way, he'd cross the street for fear of his safety. He had a way of speaking truth that bothered a lot of people. Some in Martin Luther King's orbit didn't like him that much because he was always inserting himself into things that King was doing. Right after the horrible assassination of Dr. King in Memphis, Jesse was on another floor, but he beat it up quickly to the main floor where King was shot and took over the incident and virtually became a spokesman as the cameras rolled. But look, he was a one-of-a-kind personality. I remember a time we were about to do a show together on PBS in Detroit, and he was on the phone in the green room calling corporations and say, look, I think I can make sure that your company is never picketed, but you're going to have to make a contribution to my Rainbow Coalition. Reminded me of the old Chicago protection racket back in the days of Al Capone. It was very funny, but he did it well.
So are we going to see a similar situation here in Washington as local leaders are trying to cover their behinds after this Potomac disaster, or is it all just going to get memory hold?
Oh, I think you've already seen that. You had this email exchange between President Trump and Governor Westmore of Maryland, taking shots at each other. You know, in Washington, nobody takes the blame for anything. It's always somebody else's fault. It's not my fault. We're not spending enough money. We're not taxing enough. Turn the page. But, you know, when they talk about ancient infrastructure, it's called preventive action. If you know that pipes are old and ready to burst, if you know that the roads after a major snowstorm are going to create major potholes because the roads haven't been repaved in 20 years, then if you're smart, you're going to take preventive action. But all these politicians, you know, they wring their hands and blame somebody else.
Cal, there's a lot of indications that something huge is going to happen with Iran, either a military strike, either at our hands or Israel's hands, or maybe a joint effort, or there's going to be some sort of peace deal negotiated, which is odd to me because I don't think you can negotiate or trust a terrorist state. What do you think is happening?
Well, I think President Trump has gone even further than President Obama, who drew that red line in Syria and said if the Assad government started using chemical weapons on its people and killing them, he was going to intervene. Assad's government did use the chemical weapons, and Obama didn't intervene. Now we've got all of these ships and aircraft carriers and other military equipment in the region, and I can't believe that the president isn't going to use them. Look, Iran has broken every treaty, every promise they've ever made before. Their religious doctrine says they have a right, in fact, a duty to lie to the infidels, the non-believers, and to tell them anything that they want as long as it advances the principles of their view of Islam. So I don't think, based on past behavior, that there's going to be any future difference.
Cal Thomas, thank you, sir. Always good to talk to you.
Thanks, guys.
It's 6:44. So I don't know if you remember, but the ladies of The View were demanding that the Epstein files be released without any redactions, full transparency. We want to see everything. I mean, they only started saying that when it appeared as though there was blood in the water and somehow they could get Donald Trump implicated. Of course, now the documents have come out. It looks like Bill Gates, Reid Hoffman, Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon's the closest thing to someone in Trump's orbit. Well, I guess that's not true. Howard Lutnick has some disturbing back and forth there with Epstein post-Epstein's conviction. That said, they were bound and determined to get all the documents out until yesterday, when they had to address the very uncomfortable fact that Whoopi Goldberg's name shows up in the documents. And by the way, not in some tangential way. You know, they keep saying Trump's name is all over. Yeah, because they're talking about Trump, not because Trump sent an email saying, "Oh, Jeffrey, I love you. I can't wait to see you at the island. Bring the girls. We'll order pizza." No, none of that stuff. No, they're talking about Trump. That's why Trump's name shows up in all of the documents, because he was the president, for God's sake. Or before that, he was Donald freaking Trump. But Whoopi Goldberg is in the files because she sent an email to Epstein asking to use his plane.
Oh my Lord!
That's
Can you imagine the chutzpah to be chattering on about the Epstein files, knowing that you will be in them?
Right. Yes. Well, maybe she thought it would never happen, so it gave her some sort of protection. Take a listen to them trying to spin this yesterday.
Now, in the name of transparency, can you put up my name is in the files?
Hold on. Pause there for a second. In the name of transparency, it's been out there for like 3 weeks, and they have ignored it this whole time.
They tried so hard.
Yes. Okay. And number 8, my name is in the file. No, again, let's just be clear. Her name's not in the files. It's in the files because there's an email from her. Here, go ahead. Let her finish.
And what does it say? It says, Whoopi needs a plane to get to Monaco. John Lennon's charity, it should say Julian Lennon's charity, is paying for it. They don't want to charter, so they're looking for private owners. Here's the info. And they give all the information, and they're saying, do you want to offer your G2? Okay.
And it looks like they said no thanks.
Yeah.
So in other words, anybody can be on this list.
Well, this is my point, because I'm telling you, when I tell you people are trying to turn me into, I wasn't his girlfriend. I wasn't his friend.
You were too old for him.
I was not only too old, but it was at a time, you know, where this is just not, you used to have facts.
What?
Okay, yeah, nobody is thinking that she was one of his girlfriends. Okay, that's not what anyone is thinking. But okay, Whoopi. I don't think she can take the high road on these issues, considering what a close relationship she also had with Harvey Weinstein and people in the Hollywood industry. I mean, your hands aren't clean. I'm sorry.
She's trying to play the victim because people are talking about the fact that she's in the files, but she's in the files because she's in the files.
Exactly. It's simple as that. It's 6:52.